The front door of my house swung open with such force that the hinges groaned in protest. It was 2 p.m. on a regular Tuesday, and I was folding clean laundry in my bedroom when I heard Marcus's furious footsteps storming through the house like a hurricane. "Mom, where are you?" His voice echoed through the house with a rage I hadn't heard since he was a teenager. I left the shirts on the bed and stepped into the hallway. My son, at 42 years old, was standing in the living room, his face red and his fists clenched. His green eyes, inherited from his father, pierced me with a hardness that chilled me to the bone. "Why did Chloe call me crying, saying you changed the password on your card? She was at the grocery store and couldn't pay for her shopping. You humiliated her in front of everyone." I stood frozen in the doorway. 70 years of life had taught me to stay calm in difficult situations, but this was different. This was my own son screaming at me in my own home. "Marcus, lower your voice. We're educated people." My tone was firm, yet serene. "And yes, I changed the password on my card because it's mine." "Yours? Mom, we're family. You can't just put up roadblocks when we need something." He took 2 steps closer to me, and for the first time in my life, I felt a knot of fear in my stomach. "The card is in my name, Marcus. It's my money." "Your money? Seriously, are you going to be so selfish?" His words flew at me like projectiles. "Chloe was just buying stuff for the house, food, cleaning supplies, normal things." I knew that wasn't true. I had reviewed my statements last week. $200 on makeup, $300 on clothes, $500 at an expensive restaurant. But I decided not to mention it right then. "Son, if you need money for something specific, we can talk about it like adults. But I'm not going to leave my card with no password for just anyone to use." "Just anyone? You're calling my wife just anyone?" His voice went up another notch. "She's your daughter-in-law. She's part of this family." I sat down in my favorite armchair, the same one where I had breastfed Marcus 40 years ago. I needed to maintain my composure, even though my entire body was trembling. "Chloe is always welcome in this house, but my credit card is not a family service." Marcus paced the living room like a caged animal. His shoes pounded the hardwood floor with every step. He was sweating despite the air conditioning. "I can't believe what I'm hearing. You've been generous your whole life, always helping everyone, and now that your own family needs support, you're acting like a miser." That word hurt more than any scream. Miser. I, who had raised this man alone after his father died. I, who had worked double shifts for years to pay for his college. I, who had given him the down payment for his apartment. "Marcus, I will not let you talk to me like that in my own home." "Then give me a coherent explanation. Why change the password overnight without telling anyone?" I stood up from the armchair. My back protested, but I needed to be on my feet for this conversation. Because I reviewed my statements and I found expenses that I don't recognize. A lot of money leaving my card without my authorization. "All those expenses were discussed with you." "No, Marcus, they were not." He fell silent for the first time since he had arrived. His breathing was heavy, and the veins in his neck stood out against his dark skin. "Chloe told me she always asked you before she used the card." "Chloe is lying." The words came out of my mouth before I could stop them. The silence that followed was thick, heavy. Marcus looked at me as if I had just slapped him. "I won't let you insult my wife." "I'm not insulting her. I'm telling the truth." "The truth is, you're getting paranoid. Maybe it's time for someone else to handle your finances." Those words hit me like a lightning bolt. My own son, suggesting I wasn't capable of managing my own money. My own son, doubting my mental capacity. "I think you need to leave, Marcus." "I'm not leaving until we fix this. Give me the new password right now." "No, son. I said no." I held his gaze. "This is my house and my decision. If Chloe needs something, she can ask me directly." Marcus headed for the door, but stopped before he went out. His voice was colder than ice. "This isn't over. We'll talk again when you get over your tantrum." "It's not a tantrum, Marcus. It's a decision. It's foolish, and you're going to regret it when you see how this affects our relationship." His words hung in the air like a threat. My own son, threatening to cut off our relationship if I didn't give him access to my money. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. Chloe is very hurt by your attitude. I don't know if she'll want to see you after this. Then that will be her decision. Marcus shook his head with contempt. You know what? You're right. This is your decision, and we'll make ours. The door closed with a dry thud. I was left alone in the living room, trembling. The begonias on the patio still needed water, but I no longer had the strength to water them. I walked to the window and watched Marcus's car driving away down the street. The tires squealed as he turned the corner too fast. 40 years of motherhood, and it came to this. My only son screaming at me for protecting my own money. The silence in the house felt different after he left. It wasn't the peaceful silence of the morning, but something denser, heavier, as if the air itself had changed. I sat down in my armchair again and closed my eyes. The conversation replayed in my mind like a broken record. Marcus's words, his tone, his fury, all for a password, all for protecting my own credit card. But in my heart of hearts, I knew this wasn't really about a password. It was about control. It was about boundaries. It was about the fact that for the first time in years, I had said no. The phone rang once, then twice. I let the answering machine get it. It was Chloe, her shrill voice cutting through the silence of my home. Sylvia, I know you're there. I hope you're happy with what you've done. Marcus is devastated. I don't understand why you're behaving like this with us. We're your family. Click. The line went dead. I took a deep breath and opened my eyes. The clock on the wall read 3:30. The day had started out normally, with laundry to fold and plants to water. Now it felt as if I had lived an entire week in 2 hours. I got up and walked to the kitchen. I was hungry, but more than that, I needed to do something with my hands. Cooking had always been my refuge in difficult times. As I peeled potatoes for a late lunch, I couldn't stop thinking about Marcus's expression. The anger in his eyes wasn't new, but the coldness was. It was as if he had seen right through me and decided I was no longer worth his respect. But that sunny afternoon was just the beginning of the nightmare I would live. For 30 years, my routine had been my strength. I would get up at 6 in the morning, make coffee in the same coffee maker my husband had given me before he died, and check on the plants in the yard while the sun was just beginning to warm the tiles. It was an organized, predictable, safe life. After Robert's funeral, when Marcus was just 12 years old, I learned that structure was the only thing that kept us sane. Mealtimes, study times, bedtimes, clear rules and firm boundaries. That's how we'd raise a good man, I thought. My 2-story house had been our refuge for 40 years. Robert bought it when I was pregnant with Marcus, with a loan we paid off over 20 years. Every room had a story. Every corner held memories. The backyard where Marcus learned to walk, the kitchen where I prepared thousands of family meals, the living room where we celebrated every birthday. The neighbors knew me as the woman who always had time to help. When Ms. Carter got sick, I brought her food for 2 months. When the Perez family's son needed money for school, I lent them $500 without charging interest. Generosity had been my way of honoring Robert's memory. Marcus was always a good son, studious, respectful, affectionate. When he turned 25 and got his first job as an accountant, I was proud. My sacrifice had been worth it. For years, we were a perfect team. He handled my taxes. I cooked for him on Sundays. We visited each other regularly. Everything changed when he met Chloe. The first time he introduced her to me, I was making mac and cheese in the kitchen. Marcus came in with a smile I hadn't seen since he was a teenager, holding the hand of a thin blonde woman with perfectly manicured nails and clothes that cost more than my monthly salary. "Mom, this is Chloe, the woman of my life." Chloe smiled at me with perfect white teeth, but her eyes evaluated me from head to toe as if I were an obstacle she needed to remove. Her handshake was firm but cold. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Johnson. Marcus talks about you all the time." During dinner, Chloe praised my cooking, asked about my garden, and showed interest in our family photos. She seemed genuinely interested in getting to know us. When they left that night, I thought I had found a good daughter-in-law. The next few visits were just as pleasant. Chloe brought me flowers, helped me wash the dishes, and told me funny stories about her job at the expensive clothing boutique downtown. Marcus seemed happy, and that was all that mattered to me. The wedding was small but elegant. I paid for half the expenses without them even asking. He was my only son, my only chance to be a mother of the groom. Chloe chose everything: the dress, the flowers, the menu, the music. I just signed the checks and smiled for the photos. For the first few months of marriage, the Sunday visits continued. Marcus and Chloe would come over for lunch, tell me about their new married life, and I enjoyed having him close. The house felt full again, like when Marcus was a boy. The first favors started innocently. "Sylvia, can you lend us some money? We're a little tight this month with apartment expenses." Chloe spoke to me in a sweet, almost timid voice. "It's $200. We'll pay you back on Friday." I gave them the money without a second thought. It was $200. I had enough savings, and they were just starting their married life. It was normal for young people to have financial difficulties at the beginning. Friday came, but the money didn't. Instead, another request arrived. "Mom, can you lend us $300 more? Chloe needs clothes for work, and I don't get my bonus until next month." $300, then $500, then more. Always with the same promise, "We'll pay you back soon." Always with the same excuse, "We're a little tight this month." After 6 months, my loans totaled almost $5,000. When I brought it up during a Sunday lunch, Marcus got uncomfortable. "Mom, you know we're going to pay you back. I don't understand why you're keeping such exact accounts. We're family." "Of course we're family, son, but $5,000 isn't—" Chloe intervened with her most charming smile. "Sylvia, you're right. We've been careless with the payments. How about we give you my credit card as collateral?" I didn't want their credit card. I wanted my money, but I accepted because I didn't know how to negotiate with my own family. A week later, Chloe called me in a desperate voice. "Sylvia, I have an emergency. My card is blocked and I need to buy medicine for my mom. Can I borrow yours just for today?" I lent her my card. Just for a day, I thought. Just for medicine. That night, I checked my statement online. $150 at the pharmacy. Perfect, I thought. But there were other charges too. $80 on cosmetics, $200 on clothes, $300 at an expensive restaurant. When I confronted Chloe the next day, she apologized with tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Sylvia. I was at the mall and I saw some incredible sales, and I just thought it would be okay. I'll pay you back tomorrow." She didn't pay me back tomorrow, or the next week, or the next month, but she did continue to ask for my card for emergencies. The emergency for her sister's birthday, the emergency for the shoes she needed for a wedding, the emergency for Marcus's anniversary gift. Always emergencies, always urgent, always with promises of immediate repayment. After a year, I had lost count of how much money had left my card. My life savings were dwindling month after month, but every time I tried to talk about it, Marcus made me feel guilty. "Mom, I don't understand why you're so petty with us. You have enough money, and we're trying to get ahead." Petty. That word was etched in my mind for weeks. The Sunday visits became tense. I would cook, they would eat, but the conversations always revolved around money. Bills they couldn't pay, unexpected expenses, opportunities they were missing out on for lack of cash. "If we had a better car, I could get a better job," Chloe would say while playing with her new phone. "If we could move to a nicer neighborhood, we'd have a better quality of life," Marcus would add while serving himself a third portion of my stew. I listened in silence, knowing their words were indirect requests for more money. One afternoon, while reviewing my bank statements, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. In the last 6 months, I had spent more money than I was earning from my retirement fund. My life savings were evaporating to finance Marcus and Chloe's luxurious lifestyle. I couldn't sleep that night. I stayed awake until dawn, calculating how much money I had lost, how much they owed me, and how much longer I could sustain this situation before I was ruined. For the first time in 30 years, my morning routine did not bring me peace. The coffee tasted bitter, The plants seemed wilted, and the silence of my house felt like a sentence. Something had to change, but I didn't know how to confront my own family without destroying everything we had built together. The following months were a slow torture of small lies and big losses. Every week brought a new emergency. Every emergency required my card, and every use of my card turned into expenses I had not authorized. "Sylvia, I need your card to buy medicine for Marcus. He has an infection and needs expensive antibiotics," Chloe would tell me in a worried voice. An hour later, my phone would receive notifications of $400 in purchases at clothing stores. When I confronted her, she always had an explanation. "I forgot to mention I also needed new underwear. Mine are really old and Marcus complains." $400 on underwear. It was a special sale, 3 pieces for the price of 1. I couldn't pass up the opportunity. There was always a justification, always a reason why the extra expense was necessary, intelligent, or inevitable. And I, who had raised an honest son, was beginning to doubt my own perception. The Sunday visits became financial review sessions. Chloe would arrive with a mental list of future expenses that required my support. "Marcus's cousin is getting married next month. We need new clothes for the wedding." Marcus's cousin. I knew my son better than anyone. He was an only child. His first cousin is like a sister to him. Marcus would nod without looking up from his plate. His silence had become complicit. "I need $500 for a dress and shoes," Chloe continued. "I can't show up looking shabby. His family is very elegant." $500 for a cousin's wedding I didn't know, to impress people I didn't care about. But when I tried to refuse, Marcus would intervene with his new strategy, emotional guilt. "Mom, you don't understand how important this is for us. We're building a social reputation. My job depends on the connections I make at these events." His job as an accountant at a mid-sized firm didn't depend on any social connections, but I no longer knew how to argue with them without sounding like a stingy old woman. One Thursday afternoon, while I was watering the plants on the patio, I received a call from my bank. "Mrs. Johnson, we're calling to confirm an unusual purchase on your credit card, a $1,200 transaction at an electronics store. Can you confirm if you authorize this?" $1,200. An electronics store. I hadn't bought any electronics. "At what store was the purchase made?" "At Tech World in the City Mall. Do you authorize it?" "No, I do not authorize that purchase. I'm canceling that transaction. Please block my card and send me a new one in 5 business days." I hung up the phone with trembling hands. $1,200. Chloe had my card since Tuesday to buy medicine for her headache. The phone rang 20 minutes later. "Sylvia, what did you do? My card is blocked and I'm in the middle of the grocery store with a full cart." "It's not your card, Chloe. It's my card, and I blocked it because there were unauthorized purchases." "Unauthorized purchases? All the purchases I made were necessary." "Were electronics necessary?" Silence on the other end of the line. Then a nervous laugh. "Oh, that. Marcus needed a new computer for work. His broke and he couldn't wait." "Why didn't you consult with me before making such a big purchase?" "Because we knew you would say no. You always find excuses not to help us when we really need something important." The accusation hit me like a slap. I, who had been financing their luxurious lifestyle for 2 years, was now the villain for protecting my own money. "Chloe, go home. We'll talk when you get here." "I can't go home. My cart is full of food, and I can't pay for it. You come here and bring cash." I hung up the phone. For the next hour, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Chloe, Marcus, Chloe again. I let all the calls go to the answering machine. I needed to think. I took out all my bank statements from the last 6 months and spread them out on the dining room table. The numbers didn't lie. In January, I had $45,000 in savings. By June, $26,000 had disappeared in 6 months. I reviewed every transaction, every charge, every purchase. Expensive restaurants, designer clothes, perfumes, shoes, handbags, beauty treatments, weekend trips. Nothing Chloe had bought with my money was a basic necessity. The sound of the front door opening pulled me from my calculations. Marcus and Chloe walked into my house without knocking, as if they owned the place. "Mom, what happened with the card?" Marcus seemed more tired than angry. "I blocked it because I found purchases I didn't authorize." Chloe sat down on my sofa without an invitation, her arms crossed and a defiant expression. "Sylvia, all those purchases were discussed with you. You can't just block the card every time you forget something." "I didn't forget anything, Chloe. A $1,200 computer is a lot of money to not consult with me." "I did consult you. I told you Marcus needed new equipment for work." "No, you didn't. You told me you needed money for medicine." Marcus sighed and sat down in the armchair across from me. "Mom, sometimes emergencies change." Yes, she needed medicine, but when I got to the electronics store, they had incredible sales. I couldn't miss out on the opportunity. Incredible sales of $1,200? The computer normally costs $2,000. It was a bargain. I stared at him. My son, whom I had raised to be honest and responsible, justifying an impulsive purchase of over $1,000 as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "Marcus, that computer was not an emergency. It was a luxury." "It's not a luxury, it's a work tool." "Then pay for it with your work money." Chloe stood up from the sofa dramatically. "I knew you were going to react like this. You always find a way to make us feel bad for asking for help." "I'm not making you feel bad. I just want you to respect my money. Your money is always your money. We're family, Sylvia. Family money is for the whole family." "My money is mine, Chloe. I worked 40 years for it." Marcus stood up and started pacing the living room. "Mom, we understand your point, but you also have to understand ours. We're fighting to grow professionally, to have a better life. Your support is fundamental for us." "I've supported you for 2 years, Marcus. I've spent more than $25,000 on you." $25,000? Chloe sounded offended. "We haven't spent that much." I pointed to the papers spread on the table. "The statements are right here. See for yourself." Neither of them came to the table. Neither of them wanted to see the real numbers. "The point is," Marcus continued, "that we need to know we can count on you. Blocking the card without warning puts us in humiliating situations." "Humiliating?" "Yes, Mom, humiliating. Do you know how Chloe felt when her card was declined in front of everyone at the grocery store? It's not her card, it's the family card." Those words resonated in my mind. The family card. My money converted into community property without my consent. "I think I need some time to think." "Time to think about what?" Chloe sounded impatient. "If you want to keep lending us your card?" "Of course you're going to keep lending it to us," Marcus said, genuinely surprised that it was even an option. "We're your family." I stood up from the chair and walked to the window. My garden looked beautiful under the afternoon sun. The red begonias were blooming, the white geraniums were growing strong, the bougainvillea was climbing the fence. Everything I cared for with my own hands was thriving. Why couldn't my relationship with my son be just as beautiful? "I want you to leave for today," I said without turning around. "Mom, please. I need to be alone." I heard their footsteps heading for the door. Before he left, Marcus stopped. "We hope you reconsider your position. We don't want this to affect our relationship." The door closed softly. This time there were no slamming doors or screams, just the sound of my dreams of a perfect family slowly crumbling. But I didn't know this was just the beginning of something much worse. For 3 days, my house was wrapped in an eerie silence. There were no calls from Marcus asking for money, no surprise visits from Chloe with new emergencies. It was as if they had decided to give me time to reconsider my decision to block the card. On Friday morning, while I was having coffee on the patio, I decided it was time to face the reality completely. I had spent 2 years avoiding a detailed review of my finances, blindly trusting my family. It was time to see the real damage. I sat down at my computer and opened my online bank account. The number on the screen hit me like a punch to the stomach. 2 years ago, I had $45,000. Over $25,000 had disappeared. I printed every statement from the last 24 months. The printer worked for 20 minutes, spitting out page after page full of numbers that told the story of my own naivety. I spread everything out on the dining room table and started to categorize. Reasonable grocery purchases, occasional acceptable restaurants, but then there was everything else. March, $500 at a jewelry store. I hadn't bought any jewelry. April, $700 on women's clothing. I don't wear $700 clothes. May, $300 at a spa. I don't go to spas. June, $1,000 on electronics. I barely know how to use my basic phone. July, $800 on perfumes and cosmetics. My perfume costs $30 and lasts me 6 months. The list went on, page after page. Every month had purchases I didn't remember authorizing, expenses on things I would never use, money spent in places I had never been. I took out my phone book and dialed my bank's number. "Good morning, Mrs. Johnson. How can I help you?" "I need detailed information on all my credit card transactions over the last 2 years. Can you send me a complete report?" "Of course. Is there a specific problem with your account?" "There are transactions I don't recognize." "I understand. We'll send you the full report by certified mail within 3 business days. I also recommend you check if anyone else has access to your card." Someone else. Chloe? After hanging up, I went to my room and opened the lockbox where I kept my important documents, my passport, the house deeds, insurance policies, and there at the bottom, something that chilled me to the bone, a copy of my credit card. I picked it up with trembling hands. It was a clear photocopy of both sides of my card, including the 3-digit security number on the back. In the bottom corner was a note written in Chloe's handwriting, "For emergencies, C." When had she made that copy? When had she been in my room without my knowledge? Since when did she have free access to my financial information? The phone rang. It was Chloe. "Sylvia, how are you? I've missed you these past few days." Her voice was sweet, like in the first few months after the wedding. It was the voice she used when she wanted something. "I'm fine, Chloe. Good to hear from you." "Hey, I have a tiny question. Do you remember your card's security number? I want to buy something online, and I don't have the card with me." The world stopped. She had a copy of my card, and now she was asking for the security code as if it were nothing, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Where is my card, Chloe?" "I have it, of course, like always. Didn't you give it to me to hold on to a few months ago for emergencies?" I didn't remember giving her my card permanently. I remembered temporary loans, one-day favors, specific emergencies, but according to Chloe, I had authorized her to keep my card indefinitely. "Chloe, I need you to return my card." "Why? Did something bad happen? I need to have it with me." "But Sylvia, how are we going to handle emergencies? We'll have to bother you every time we need something urgent." "Yes, you'll have to ask for my permission every time." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "You know what? We'd better talk in person. I'm coming over." "No, Chloe, just give me my card back." "I'm coming over," she repeated, and hung up. 20 minutes later, I heard Marcus's car parking in front of my house. This time they didn't come screaming. They rang the doorbell like normal visitors. I opened the door and found Chloe alone, smiling as if nothing had happened. "Hi, Sylvia. Can I come in?" I let her in, even though every instinct told me not to. She sat on the sofa and took my credit card out of her purse. "Here's your card, but before I give it back, I think we need to talk." She placed it on the coffee table, but didn't push it toward me. "Talk about what? About why you suddenly don't trust us? About why you're acting like we're strangers? About why you've changed so much?" "I haven't changed, Chloe. I'm just protecting my money." "Protecting your money? From what? From us? From your own family?" She stood up and started walking around my living room, touching the photo frames, adjusting the sofa cushions as if it were her own home. "Sylvia, you know Marcus and I love you very much. You know we would never do anything to hurt you, but lately it seems like you see us as enemies." "I don't see you as enemies. I just want to know exactly how my money is being spent." "Exactly." She turned to me with a wounded expression. "Don't you trust my judgment? After 2 years of being married to your son, you still think I'm a stranger. You're not a stranger, Chloe, but my money is still mine. She sat down again, closer to me this time. Look, Sylvia, I understand you feel uncomfortable. It's natural. When a woman reaches a certain age, it's normal for her to become more cautious with money. A certain age. The phrase hung in the air like a subtle threat. What do you mean by that? Nothing bad, of course. It's just that sometimes older people worry too much about small things. They get a little paranoid. Paranoid. The same word Marcus had used. Paranoid for wanting to control my own credit card. Paranoid for thinking your family is stealing from you. The words came out of her mouth so naturally that it took me a moment to process them. Stealing. She had used the word stealing. Who said anything about stealing? You did, Sylvia, with your actions. Blocking the card, asking for detailed reports, treating us like criminals. What is that if not accusing us of theft? I stood up from the sofa. I needed physical distance from this conversation. Chloe, I just want my card back. Of course, here it is. She finally pushed the card toward me. I took it and put it in my blouse pocket. But Sylvia, she continued in a soft voice, I hope you understand that this is going to make things more complicated for everyone. Every time we have an emergency, we'll have to bother you. Every time we need something urgent, you'll have to go out of your way to help us. That's fine. I can handle that. Are you sure? Because sometimes emergencies happen at odd hours. Sometimes we need things when you're asleep or when you can't leave the house. Was she threatening me or just outlining practical scenarios? We'll handle each situation as it comes. Chloe nodded slowly. Okay, if that's what you want. She stood up to leave. I just hope you don't regret it when you see how complicated everything is going to get. I walked her to the door. Before she went out, she turned back to me. You know what the saddest part of all this is, Sylvia? That after 2 years of treating you like my own mother, you now see me as a stranger. That hurts a lot. Her eyes filled with tears. For a moment, I almost felt guilty. Almost. I don't see you as a stranger, Chloe. I see you as my son's wife, but not as family. You really are family, but my money is still mine. She nodded sadly and left my house. That night, I couldn't sleep. Chloe's words replayed in my mind. Was I being paranoid? Was it normal for a 70-year-old woman to want to control her own money? Or was I really becoming a distrustful old woman? I took out the copy of my card I had found in my lockbox. I studied it under the light of my bedside lamp. It was a perfect, clear, usable copy. Someone had planned this. And then I understood the truth. I wasn't becoming paranoid. I had been too trusting, but I didn't know that the worst was yet to come. On Monday morning, the detailed report from my bank arrived by certified mail. 5 pages of transactions that told the complete story of how I had lost $25,000 in 2 years. Every purchase had a date, time, location, and amount. It was like reading the diary of a life that wasn't mine. I sat at the dining room table with a cup of coffee and began to study each line. What I found took my breath away. There were transactions at times when I was sleeping, purchases at stores I'd never been to, expenses in cities I'd never visited, and most disturbingly, cash withdrawals from ATMs at 3 in the morning. How had someone withdrawn money at 3 in the morning if I was in my bed? I dialed Marcus's number. I needed an explanation before my mind created theories I didn't want to contemplate. Hello, Mom. How are you? Marcus, I need to ask you something important. Sure. What's up? My card has been used when I wasn't there. There was a long pause. What exactly do you mean? I mean using it without my knowledge when I was at home. Mom, you gave us permission to use the card for emergencies. Sometimes emergencies don't wait for convenient hours. Money was taken from ATMs at 3 in the morning. Oh, that was one time we needed cash urgently for a taxi after dinner. We were out late and didn't have any on us. One time. The report said it was 6 times in the last 3 months. Mom, I'm not going to keep a detailed log of every emergency to report back to you like we're children. His tone had become defensive, impatient. Marcus, It's 6 withdrawals of $300 each, $1,800 in cash. And they were all for legitimate expenses. I don't understand why you're suddenly treating us like criminals. I'm not treating you like criminals. I just want to understand how my money was spent. You know what, Mom? I think we need a serious conversation. Chloe and I are coming over. Marcus, The line went dead before I could finish. I was left holding the phone, my stomach churning. I didn't want another confrontation, but I knew it was inevitable. While I waited for them to arrive, I continued to review the report. I found something that made me feel physically sick. 2 simultaneous transactions in different places. A purchase at an expensive restaurant at the same time as a purchase at a clothing store 12 miles away. It was impossible for a single person to have made those 2 purchases at the same time, which meant they had made additional copies of my card. 40 minutes later, Marcus and Chloe walked into my house. This time, they didn't ring the doorbell. They used the key I had given them for emergencies years ago. Mom, we have to talk, Marcus said before sitting down. Chloe looked different, less conciliatory, more determined. She sat across from me with her arms crossed. Sylvia, this is getting out of control, she began. Your suspicions, your accusations, your obsessive review of every expense, it's not normal. It's not normal to want to know how my own money is being spent. It's not normal to treat your family like they're scammers, Marcus interjected. I put the bank report on the table. Explain this to me. 2 purchases at the same time in different places. Marcus took the sheets and quickly reviewed them. What purchases? Friday, April 15th, a $200 purchase at the Grand Table restaurant at 8 in the evening. At the same time, a $300 purchase at Elegance Boutique. Chloe and Marcus exchanged a quick look. Oh, that, Chloe said naturally. I was at the restaurant and Marcus was buying me a surprise gift at the boutique. We used both cards at the same time so I wouldn't find out about the surprise. Both cards? Your card and my card, Marcus explained. But my card got blocked that day, so I had to use yours for the gift too. The explanation sounded rehearsed, too perfect, but I had no way to prove they were lying. How many copies of my card exist? Copies? Chloe seemed genuinely confused. What copies? I took out the photocopy I had found in my lockbox. This copy, with your handwriting on it. Chloe took it and studied it as if she were seeing it for the first time. Oh yeah, I made this copy months ago so I'd have the numbers in case I lost the original card in an emergency. Is that wrong? Did you make more copies? No, of course not. Why would I? To make simultaneous purchases in different places. Marcus stood up from his chair. Mom, stop! We can't take these accusations anymore. They're not accusations, Marcus. They're legitimate questions about my own money. They're accusations of fraud. You're accusing us of stealing. I just want explanations. Chloe stood up as well and approached me. Sylvia, do you know how much this hurts us? Do you know how it feels for your own mother-in-law to think you're a thief? Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they didn't move me. I just want the truth. The truth is you're getting paranoid, Marcus yelled. The truth is that every time we need your help, you make us feel like criminals. The truth is, Chloe continued in a shaky voice, we're considering distancing ourselves from you until you get professional help. Professional help? Yes, Mom. Marcus calmed down slightly. I think you should talk to a doctor. These personality changes, this paranoia, this distrust of your own family, it's not normal. My personality hasn't changed. I'm just protecting my money. Your personality has changed, Chloe insisted. Before you were generous, loving, you trusted us. Now you're suspicious, stingy. You treat us badly. Stingy for not wanting to give away $25,000. It hasn't been $25,000, Marcus protested. I took all the bank statements and spread them out on the table. The numbers are right here. Count it yourself. Neither of them even looked at the papers. I'm not going to participate in this obsession of yours with keeping exact accounts of every favor you've done for us, Marcus said. Favors. $25,000 are favors? Yes, they're favors from a mother to her son. It's what normal families do. Normal families don't hide copies of credit cards. Chloe took the photocopy from the table. Do you want me to tear it up? Will that make you feel better? She ripped the paper into small pieces and let them fall onto the table. There. Are you happy now? How many other copies did you make? None. I didn't make any other copies. Then explain the late-night withdrawals. I already explained the late-night withdrawals. Marcus approached and placed his hand on my shoulder. Mom, this has to stop. You're destroying our family relationship for money. I'm not destroying it, I'm just protecting it. Protecting it from what? From us? Protecting my finances. Your money isn't in danger with us, Chloe said softly. Your money is in danger with you. Do you know how many people your age lose all their savings by making wrong decisions? Wrong decisions like trusting you? Wrong decisions like isolating yourself from your family because of paranoia. Marcus took his hand off my shoulder. Mom, I'm going to make you a proposal. Give us one last chance to prove we're worthy of your trust. Give us access to your card for one more month. If at the end of the month you're not completely satisfied with how we've managed the expenses, we'll never ask you for money again. Chloe nodded enthusiastically. It's an excellent idea. We'll show you that you can trust us. I looked at them both, my son and my daughter-in-law, asking me for one last chance to prove their honesty. It sounded reasonable. It sounded like something a normal family would do, but something in their eyes told me it wasn't a request. It was a demand disguised as a favor. I need some time to think. Time to think about what, Mom? If you trust your own family? Time to decide if I'm making a mistake. Marcus sighed. Okay, take your time. But in the meantime, we're also going to take some time. What does that mean? It means that until you decide to trust us again, we're going to keep our distance. We don't want to keep feeling like criminals with every visit. They headed for the door. Before leaving, Chloe turned around. I hope that when you reconsider all this, you realize that we are the only thing you have. Without family, money is worthless. The door closed behind them, and I was left alone with the papers scattered on the table and the weight of a decision I didn't know how to make. Was I a paranoid mother destroying her family relationship for money? Or was I an older woman being manipulated by her own family? I didn't know which of the two possibilities scared me more. For a week, I didn't hear from Marcus or Chloe. The silence felt strange after 2 years of constant calls asking for money, surprise visits, and urgent emergencies that required my credit card. For the first time in a long time, my phone didn't ring every day. At first, the silence was a relief. I could water my plants without interruptions, read my book in peace, cook for myself without worrying about preparing extra portions. But after 5 days, it began to feel like a punishment. Was this what they wanted? To isolate me until I gave in to their demands? On Saturday morning, while I was organizing my closet, I found something that made me stop. At the bottom of the last drawer, wrapped in an old handkerchief, was the pearl necklace Robert had given me for our 10th anniversary. I hadn't worn it in years. I took it out and held it up to the light. The pearls were still beautiful, perfect, intact after so many years. I remembered the night Robert put it on me for the first time, his hands trembling slightly as he struggled with the clasp. For the strongest woman I know, he had told me, so you never forget your worth. My worth. When had I started to doubt it? I decided to put on the necklace and leave the house. I needed fresh air. I needed to see people. I needed to remember that a world existed beyond this situation with Marcus and Chloe. I went to the downtown farmers market, where I had bought vegetables for 20 years. Mr. Garcia, the owner of the fruit stand, greeted me with his usual wrinkled smile. Mrs. Johnson, it's so good to see you. How have you been? I've been okay, Mr. Garcia. A little worried lately, but I'm okay. Worried about what? Your health? Your family? He nodded with understanding. Families can be complicated. I have 5 kids, and each one gives me a different headache. Did you ever feel that your kids saw you only as a source of money?" Mr. Garcia stopped arranging the oranges and looked at me directly. "Mrs. Johnson, are you going through something like that? I don't know if I'm exaggerating or if it's really happening. Do you want some advice from someone who has lived 75 years?" I nodded. When your own instincts tell you something isn't right, listen to them. A mother's instincts never lie. His words stayed with me the whole way back home. A mother's instincts never lie. That afternoon, while I was watering the begonias, my phone rang. It was Marcus. "Hello, Mom. How are you?" "Hello, son. I'm fine. And you?" "We've been thinking a lot. Chloe and I discussed the whole situation and came to a conclusion." "What conclusion?" "That maybe you're right to want more control over your money, that maybe we've been too casual about the financial thing." I was surprised. I hadn't expected that response. "I'm glad to hear that, Marcus. So we want to propose something different. Instead of using your card, we want you to give us a fixed amount every month, like an allowance. That way you'll know exactly how much you're giving us, and we'll know what we can count on." "An allowance?" "Yes, an amount that you consider reasonable for our expenses. We were thinking maybe $1,500 a month?" $1,500 a month. $18,000 a year for expenses they considered necessary. "Marcus, $1,500 is a lot of money. It's less than we've spent on average these past few months. We thought it would be a way to cut down on expenses and give you more control." "Why do you need $1,500 a month if you both work?" "Because we're trying to grow professionally. We need appropriate clothes for work. We need to maintain certain social standards. We need to invest in our future, and our salaries aren't enough for that. Mom, our salaries barely cover the apartment and basic food. Everything else requires additional help." "Then maybe you should reduce your expenses." There was a long pause. "Do you want us to live like we're poor?" "I want you to live within your means. Our means include having a mother who can help us grow. I don't understand why you suddenly want us to struggle on our own when you have the resources to make our lives easier." "Because they're not my lives, Marcus. They're your lives. We're family. My life and your life are connected." His tone had changed. The conversation was heading into familiar territory again. "Marcus, I'm not going to give you $1,500 a month." "How much then? 1,000? "I don't know. I need to think about it." "Think about it, Mom. We've been waiting a week for an answer. And I've been spending money uncontrollably for 2 years. I need time to decide how to proceed." "You know what? Forget it. Forget the whole proposal." "Marcus?" "No, Mom. We're not going to beg for your help anymore. Chloe was right. There are other options." "What other options?" "Options that don't require begging my own mother for money." He hung up before I could respond. That night, I couldn't sleep. What had he meant by other options? What was Marcus talking about? On Monday morning, I found out. I was having breakfast when someone knocked on the door. It was a young man in a suit with a briefcase. "Mrs. Sylvia Johnson?" "Yes, I am." "I'm Mr. Roberts from the law firm of Hayes & Associates. Your son, Marcus Johnson, has retained our services to review your mental and financial capacity." I felt as if the floor had disappeared beneath my feet. "Excuse me?" "Your son is concerned about your mental well-being. According to him, you have shown signs of paranoia, confusion, and erratic decision-making. He is considering initiating a legal process to obtain guardianship over your finances." "Guardianship?" "Yes, ma'am. A process where a judge determines if you are capable of managing your own financial affairs, or if you need someone else to handle them for you." "Someone like my son?" "Exactly." I sat down in the armchair because my legs could no longer support me. "What do I need to do to defend myself?" "First, I recommend you hire a lawyer. Second, you should undergo medical examinations to prove your mental capacity. Third, you should gather evidence that you manage your finances responsibly. How much time do I have?" "If they decide to proceed formally, you will receive an official summons with 30 days to respond." The man left, leaving me alone with the realization that my own son was considering legally taking control of my money. My own son. That afternoon, I called my neighbor, Alma Davis. I had known her for 15 years, but we had never had an intimate friendship. Still, I needed to talk to someone, and she had always seemed like a sensible woman. "Alma, could you come over? I need some advice." "Of course, Sylvia. I'll be right there." When she arrived, I told her everything. The loans that became permanent, the credit card they never gave back, the unauthorized purchases, the threat of legal guardianship, everything. Alma listened in silence, nodding occasionally, without judgment. "You know what I think, Sylvia?" "What?" "I think your son and his wife are systematically manipulating you, and now that you're defending yourself, they're escalating to more aggressive tactics. You think I'm being manipulated? I'm sure of it. And I'm sure you're not the first older woman this has happened to." "What should I do?" "Fight with every legal tool you have. Don't let them take your money or your dignity." "What if I lose my son in the process?" Alma took my hands. "Sylvia, you already lost your son, the Marcus you raised, the one who respected you, the one who was grateful for your sacrifices. That Marcus no longer exists. What you have now is a stranger who wants your money and is willing to have you declared incompetent to get it." Her words were like a blow to the chest, but also like a liberation. She was right. My son was already gone. "Do you know a good lawyer?" "I know the best lawyer in the city for these cases. His name is Vincent Harris. He specializes in defending older adults against family financial abuse." Vincent Harris. The name was etched in my mind. "Can you give me his number?" "I'll do you one better. I'll go with you to his office tomorrow." That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept soundly, not because my problems had disappeared, but because I had finally decided to fight. My son had chosen money over me. Now I was going to choose my dignity over him. On Tuesday morning, Alma accompanied me to the law office downtown. Vincent Harris turned out to be a man in his 60s, with gray hair, intelligent eyes, and a calm way of speaking that immediately made me feel confident. "Mrs. Johnson, tell me exactly what has been happening," he said as he took notes in a yellow pad. I recounted everything from the beginning: the loans that were never repaid, the credit card used without my knowledge, the unauthorized copies, the late-night withdrawals, and finally, the threat of legal guardianship. "Do you have documentation of all these transactions?" "I have all the bank statements and the detailed report I requested last week." "Excellent. Did you ever sign a document giving your son or his wife permanent authorization to use your card?" "Never." "Did you ever authorize them to make copies of your card?" "Never." Vincent stopped writing and looked at me directly. "Mrs. Johnson, what you're describing is family financial abuse. It's a crime, and we also have civil options to recover your money." "How common is this?" "More common than people think. The most frequent victims are older women with savings who trust family members who gradually appropriate their resources." "How will we proceed?" "First, we'll protect you from the guardianship lawsuit. Second, we'll fully document the financial abuse. Third, we'll recover your money. And fourth, we'll make sure this doesn't happen again." I felt relieved for the first time in months. I finally had someone on my side who understood the situation. "How much will all this cost?" "My fees are $3,000, but I consider that an investment to recover $25,000. I signed the contract that same day. Over the next week, Vincent and his team worked meticulously. They requested security camera footage from the stores where my card had been used. They tracked the IP addresses of the online purchases and documented every unauthorized transaction. What they found was worse than I had imagined. "Mrs. Johnson," Vincent told me during our second meeting, "not only did they use your card without authorization, they also created fake credit accounts using your personal information." "Fake credit accounts?" "Yes. 3 additional credit cards, all in your name but sent to your son's address. The statements show they've accumulated almost $15,000 in additional debt." $15,000 in debt I didn't know existed. My heart raced. How was that possible? They had access to all your personal information, your social security number, date of birth, bank information. With that data, it's relatively easy to apply for credit online. This means I owe that money. Not necessarily. We're going to dispute all those accounts as identity fraud, but we need to act fast. That afternoon, Vincent accompanied me to file fraud reports with the 3 credit agencies. We also filed a criminal complaint for identity theft and financial abuse. What will happen now? Your son will receive a notification that you are disputing the debts and have filed criminal charges. They will probably contact you to try to reach an agreement. An agreement? They'll try to convince you to drop the charges in exchange for promises of payment. Don't accept anything without consulting me first. He was right. On Friday night, my phone rang. It was Marcus. "Mom, what have you done?" His voice sounded different. Scared, desperate. "I've protected my finances, son. We got a court summons. We're being accused of fraud." "Because you committed fraud." "We didn't commit fraud. We're your family. Everything we did was with your knowledge." "No, Marcus, it was not with my knowledge." "Mom, you have to drop these charges. They're going to ruin our lives. You already ruined mine. Please, we'll pay all the money back. Just drop the charges." "With what money are you going to pay me back $25,000? "We'll get the money. We'll take out a loan. We'll sell things, whatever it takes." "And the $15,000 in credit cards you opened in my name?" There was silence on the other end of the line. "How do you know about those cards?" "Because I hired a lawyer, Marcus. Because I investigated what you really did." "Mom, those cards were for real emergencies. Chloe needed expensive medical treatments." "Medical treatments at clothing stores and expensive restaurants?" "Not all the purchases were frivolous. All the purchases were fraud." Marcus started to cry. It was the first time I had heard him cry since he was a child. "Mom, please, we're your family. You can't destroy us for money." "You already destroyed me for money." "We'll pay everything back. Just give me one chance." "You've already had 2 years of chances. One more chance, please." "No, Marcus." "Then this is war." His voice changed completely. The tears turned into coldness. "War. If you don't drop the charges, we're going to proceed with the guardianship lawsuit. We're going to prove that you're losing your mental capacity. We're going to get witnesses who say you've been behaving erratically." "What witnesses?" "Neighbors, shopkeepers, people who have noticed your paranoid behavior." "My behavior isn't paranoid, it's defensive." "A judge will decide that." He hung up the phone. The next day, the real war began. First came the calls. Marcus, Chloe, unknown numbers, all leaving messages on my answering machine, some pleading, others threatening, all trying to convince me to drop the charges. Then the visits began. Marcus would show up at different times of the day, knocking insistently, yelling from the street that he just wanted to talk. Chloe sent her friends to knock on my door with invented pretexts. One afternoon, while I was watering the plants on the patio, I heard voices on the street. 3 women I didn't know were standing in front of my house talking loudly. "That's the house of the lady who's accusing her own son of stealing. How embarrassing. Sometimes kids have financial problems and need help. At that age, it's normal for them to become distrustful. My grandmother also got like that before she..." She didn't finish the sentence, but the message was clear. They were spreading rumors about my mental state. I called Vincent. "They're doing exactly what I expected," he told me. "They're trying to create a narrative that you're mentally incompetent. It's a common tactic in these cases." "What should we do?" "Document everything, record the conversations, take photos of the unwanted visits, keep a log of all the harassment. We're going to use it against them." That night, someone keyed my car. 2 words in red spray paint, "Crazy miser." The message was clear. While I fought legally, they would fight psychologically. I called Alma to tell her what was happening. "Sylvia, you can't stay in that house alone. Come stay with me until this is resolved." "I'm not going to let them run me out of my own home." "Then I'll stay with you. That night, Alma slept on my sofa. Her presence calmed me, but it also saddened me. At 70 years old, I needed protection against my own family. At 3 a.m, my phone rang. I answered, thinking it might be an emergency. "I hope you're happy," Chloe's voice said, distorted as if she were speaking through a handkerchief. "I hope you're happy destroying a family for dirty money." "Dirty money? The money your husband made from illegal business? You think we don't know where your savings really came from?" "What are you saying?" "Ask the people in the neighborhood what kind of man your husband was. Ask them what they thought of his late-night business." She hung up before I could respond. Robert had been an accountant. He had worked at the same office for 20 years. He hadn't had any late-night business or dirty money, but now I understood how far they were willing to go to destroy my reputation. They were attacking the memory of my deceased husband. "Alma," I whispered in the darkness, "I think this is going to get worse before it gets better." "I know," she replied from the sofa, "but we're going to stand together." For the first time in months, I didn't feel completely alone. I had Alma, I had Vincent, and I had the truth on my side, but I didn't know if that would be enough against the desperation of people who had lost access to my money and were willing to do anything to get it back. The court hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday in March. For the 2 weeks leading up to it, Vincent and his team worked tirelessly to prepare my defense. There were documents, testimonies, forensic evidence of the fraudulent purchases, and something that surprised me, other victims. "Mrs. Johnson, your case has opened a broader investigation," Vincent explained in his office. "We've found 3 similar cases in the last 2 years. Families using the same tactics, gradual financial abuse, followed by guardianship lawsuits when the victim defends herself. Your courage in reporting this is helping other people." On the day of the hearing, I arrived at the courthouse accompanied by Vincent and Alma. In the courtroom, Marcus and Chloe were waiting with their lawyer, a young man in an expensive suit who wouldn't stop reviewing documents. When our eyes met, Marcus immediately looked away. Chloe looked at me with a coldness that made me tremble. The judge, a man in his 50s with a serious expression, reviewed all the documents before beginning. The hearing lasted 3 hours. Vincent meticulously presented all the evidence: the $25,000 in unauthorized purchases, the 3 credit cards opened fraudulently, the late-night cash withdrawals, the unauthorized copies of my card. Every transaction was documented with a date, time, location, and amount. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue that everything had been verbally authorized, that I had given permission to use my financial information, that my lawsuit was the result of age-related mental confusion. He presented as evidence testimonies from 2 people who had supposedly noticed changes in my behavior, but Vincent had prepared a devastating surprise. He had obtained security camera recordings from several stores where my card had been used. The images clearly showed Chloe using my card while I was supposedly at home. He also had phone records that showed that during some of those purchases, I had been talking on the phone from my home landline, which made it impossible for me to have been present at the stores. The most compelling evidence was the testimony of my family doctor, Dr. Paul Rodriguez, who had been my doctor for 15 years. He testified that my medical and neurological exams over the last 2 years showed a completely normal mental capacity for my age, with no signs of cognitive decline, dementia, or any condition that could affect my ability to make financial decisions. When the judge asked me to testify, I stood up with trembling legs, but with a firm voice. I explained how it had all started with small loans that were never repaid, how they had gradually taken control of my credit card, how they had made copies without my authorization, and how when I finally tried to protect my finances, they threatened to take legal control of my money. "Mrs. Johnson," the judge asked me, "at any point did you specifically authorize your son or his wife to open credit accounts in your name?" "Never, Your Honor. I never authorized any additional credit accounts." "Did you know these accounts existed before you hired your lawyer?" "I had no knowledge of their existence. I discovered the $15,000 in debt when Mr. Harris investigated my financial situation." When Marcus testified, his story changed several times. First, he said I had verbally authorized everything. Then he admitted that some purchases had been impulsive decisions. Finally, he acknowledged that the additional credit accounts had been opened without my direct knowledge, but insisted that it had been for legitimate family expenses. The judge interrupted him coldly. "Mr. Johnson, regardless of your intentions, opening credit accounts using another person's personal information without their explicit authorization constitutes identity fraud, a federal crime." The judge's decision was clear and definitive. Not only did he completely reject the guardianship lawsuit, but he ordered Marcus and Chloe to immediately repay the $25,000 I had documented, plus interest and legal costs. Furthermore, he ordered the immediate cancellation of the 3 fraudulent accounts and the removal of that debt from my credit history. As if that wasn't enough, he issued a restraining order that prohibited them from contacting me directly for 1 year, and any future communication had to be through lawyers. The documented behavior in this case, the judge declared, represents a systematic pattern of family financial abuse. The evidence clearly demonstrates that Mrs. Johnson is completely mentally competent and that her actions to protect her finances were appropriate and necessary. The guardianship lawsuit not only lacks merit, but it appears to have been filed as a tactic of intimidation to maintain unauthorized access to the plaintiff's financial resources. When we left the courtroom, Vincent explained that the process of recovering the money could take a few months, but that the court order legally obligated them to begin payments immediately. If they didn't comply, they would face additional charges for contempt of court. That night, in the tranquility of my home, I sat in my favorite armchair with a cup of tea and looked out the window at my garden. The red begonias were blooming beautifully. The white geraniums were growing strong. Everything I had cared for with love was still thriving. For the first time in 2 years, my money was safe. My house was protected. My future was in my own hands again. But along with the relief came a deep sadness. I had won the legal battle. I had recovered my money. I had protected my dignity, but I had lost my son, the Marcus I had raised, the boy I had breastfed in that same armchair, the young man I had supported for years. That Marcus was gone forever, replaced by a stranger who had been willing to declare me mentally incompetent to access my money. Justice had triumphed, but my mother's heart was still broken. 6 months after the hearing, my life had found a new normal. The payments ordered by the judge arrived punctually every month, and my bank account was gradually recovering. More importantly, I had recovered my peace of mind. Vincent religiously supervised that Marcus and Chloe complied with the court order. During those months of legal work, our conversations had evolved beyond legal matters. I discovered that Vincent had been a widower for 5 years, that he had 3 adult children who lived in other cities, and that he shared my love for gardening. "How do you get your bougainvillea to grow so beautifully?" he asked me one afternoon while we were reviewing the latest payment documents on my patio. "Patience and constant care," I replied, "like everything worthwhile in life." His visits had become more frequent and less professional. He would arrive with excuses about documents to review, but would stay to have coffee and talk about books, politics, memories of our marriages, and plans for the future. He made me feel valued not for my money, but for who I was as a person. One Sunday afternoon in October, while we were sharing tea and homemade cookies, Vincent took my hand. "Sylvia, these months with you have been the happiest I've had since I lost my wife. You've given me back the hope that life can still be beautiful at our age. And you've given me back the confidence that good people exist who don't want to take advantage of me. Does it seem crazy that a 62-year-old lawyer is thinking about falling in love with his 70-year-old client? It seems wonderful that a 70-year-old woman is feeling butterflies in her stomach like a schoolgirl." We got married in a small, intimate ceremony 6 months later. Only the 2 of us were present, Alma as my witness, Vincent's brother as his, and the judge who married us. It was perfect in its simplicity. Vincent moved into my house, bringing his law books, his plants, and a quiet joy that filled every room. Together, we redesigned Robert's study as our shared library. Together, we planted new flowers in the garden. Together, we built routines that gave us both happiness. In the afternoons, while I cooked, Vincent worked on pro bono cases, helping other older adults who were victims of family financial abuse. It had become his specialty after my case, and he found deep satisfaction in protecting vulnerable people. "Every case I win is a victory for human dignity," he would tell me. Marcus tried to contact me once, 6 months after my marriage to Vincent. He called one afternoon. His voice sounded tired, defeated. "Mom, I know I'm not supposed to call you, but I needed to tell you something. Marcus, you know you can't talk to me directly. I just want to say I'm sorry. Chloe and we're getting divorced. She left with another man, taking everything we were able to save after the lawsuit. I'm left with no money, no wife, and no mother for following her plans." I felt a pang of maternal pain, but I was no longer the same woman who had been manipulated for 2 years. "Marcus, I'm sorry you're going through this, but decisions have consequences. Can you ever forgive me?" "I've already forgiven you, son, but